So, good morning, and would you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Jason Francey. I'm a current second year graduate student at Canisius College, and I am applying for an LGBT resource coordinator position at Marquette University.
Fantastic. Well, welcome to this interview. I appreciate you coming.
I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. The first question I have for you, could you describe one or two qualities that you have, personal qualities, that you think would make you a great candidate for this job?
First, I'm very caring. I currently work with the LGBT students at Canisius, and I treat them as if they're more than just my students. They're kind of like my kids, and I'm kind of their parent. I care a lot about them, and they know that they can come to me for anything, and that whatever problem that they have, I will sit down, I will listen to them, and I will point them in the right direction. On top of that, I'm a very deliberative person. So when someone comes to me for an issue, I do definitely take time to think about it and process it. So no one ever gets a quick top off the top of my head off answer that's just kind of like shoo them away. Like I always sit down and think and process and really give people a real, well thought out answer.
Excellent. Um, what are the strongest leadership skills that you think you bring to this job?
I'm a very collaborative person. I was a theater major in my undergrad, and from the back, that's what we learned in school. We are collaborative with everyone. If you're a director, you're collaborative with your designers and your actors, and that's the same. That same goes for student affairs. If you work with a group of students, you're collaborative with them. My style of advising is I don't hover over them. I don't try to control them. I'm just there if they need me, and I'm there to collaborate with them. So I bring ideas to the table, and I encourage them to bring ideas to the table as well.
Excellent. What approaches might someone who's supervising you use to bring out the very best in you?
I can tend to be very autonomous when I get excited about a project. That doesn't mean I don't just put something in place and like don't talk to anyone about it, but I do, because of my deliberateness, I do like to take something and take time with it by myself to kind of mold it into something that I want and then present it to someone else. So I do like someone that kind of gives me my space to kind of work my way through it in my own mind and then bring it to the table.
Excellent. What's the most useful criticism you ever received?
That's a really good question. Do you mind if I take a minute to?
Of course not. Go ahead.
Most useful piece? I actually got this the other day, and that's to not be so hard on myself. I do have a tendency to be a bit of a perfectionist, and when something goes wrong, I do tend to take it a little personally and internalize it and kind of harp on it to try to figure out what I did wrong, where I went wrong, how I can best fix it in the future. And sometimes it's not great for one's psyche to do that. So definitely the best piece of advice I ever gotten was to not be so hard on myself, and that I'm human, I'm going to make mistakes. I think I've made 20 this morning up until this point. So
I understand that. Me too. How do you feel like you demonstrate your accessibility to students?
I try to answer my email in a very prompt manner. My students know that when they email me, they usually get a response within 6 to 7 hours, depending on what I'm doing. They know that if I don't respond, it's not that I'm ignoring them. It's just I'm tied up with something right now. And I always have an open door policy. I tell my students to drop by and see me anytime. They know that if my door's shut, that means I am with someone. So I set very clear boundaries with them and to let them know this is how you get a hold of me. If I don't respond to you right away, please understand that I'm tied up with something. It's not that I'm ignoring you. I will get back to you as soon as possible. You just have to trust that I've seen your message and that I will get back to you. And most of the time, when I do get something, I'm in the middle of something, I just shoot a quick email back saying, I'm in the middle of something, I'll get to this as soon as I can, just so that they know.
Excellent. You know, there are a lot of competing demands in this job. How do you handle the stress and still meet the deadlines?
I always try to take time for myself. It's something that I'm just starting to learn. It was another critique that I got last year, that I don't take enough time to really de-stress and take time for myself. So by taking time to recharge, I can then sit down and kind of reprioritize and figure out what's coming up. I'm a big stress baker. So it's always a plus for the office, because whenever I stress bake, I bring whatever I bake in with me. So, but it's just something that I do to kind of de-stress and kind of clear my own head. I like doing things with my hands. I'm a very kinesthetic learner. So getting the opportunity to do stuff kind of helps me clear my head.
Great. What are your long-term professional goals?
My long-term professional goals is to kind of work my way up the ladder. I never want to see myself in a position where I don't have student interaction every day, because the students are the reason why I enjoy this job so much, especially my LGBT students. They've made my time here at Canisius the best, because they're such brilliant students, and just being there with them and sharing with them and growing and learning with them. I never want to be in a position where I'm behind a desk all day and I don't really get to see them. So in terms of long-term goals, I definitely want to wind up as a dean of students one day, but I don't want to be, because I've seen this dean of students trap, where a lot of times they get so, and it's hard because it comes with the job, that they get so busy that sometimes they can't really be as prominent and as with the students as they want. And my long-term goal is to be a dean of students that kind of breaks that mold and is there with the students as much as possible. Excellent.
What questions do you have for me about this job?
So I was looking at the website, and I noticed that the Resource Center website is kind of bare bones. So I was wondering, is the center new? I know it says that it moved to a new location. So was it originally part of a different office, and did it just break off recently and become its own identity?
Right. Of course, I don't actually have the answer to that question, but the one way you might phrase that is, I'd love to know the history of the Resource Center, because then you don't have to describe their website as bare bones.
Yeah.
And my gut is what you're saying is exactly right. There's some real history there, and that might inform you about what's really happening, and are they consolidating, or are they not going to have it, or that sort of thing. What's another question you have for me?
Another question I had is, I noticed that on the job description it said that one of my positions is create and implement programs, and you gave some examples. So I was wondering, the examples that you gave, are those programs that you already have in place, or are they programs that you'd like to see happen?
Excellent. That's a really good question, because that gets them talking about their programs. Were any of those programs ones that you're familiar with, ones that they want to create?
Lavender Graduation. Lavender Graduation is one of my favorite events. We recently at Canisius just started doing it last year.
Right.
And it's such a great way to thank the students for all their work, and just when you're coming from an advisor standpoint, you're seeing your students, not only graduate college, but you're seeing the transition between 4 years. It's a lot more intimate, because it's just your students, as opposed to like trying to catch them on that stage with 400 of their other students. It's just an intimate setting for you to see them, and for you to really reflect on the year that you had with them, and just watching them grow from when they came in to when they exit. And it's a really great opportunity for them, because the way we do it is we invite alumni back, and the alumni get to come back, and just because a lot of the alumni are from several years ago, before Unity, our GSA, was founded. Some of them, truthfully, some of them have some hurt feelings about the school, and it's the time period they went to school. Across the board, it was across the board. Not everyone, regardless of the school, was not accepting. So just to see them come back and see what's going on is also a rewarding experience.
That's fantastic, because it hooks them back in as alumni in a positive way. I was just at Texas State University in San Marcos and met a student who'd just been through that process with them and loved it. So if that was on information they sent to you, then for example, one of the things you might do if they say, "What questions do you have for us?"
Mhm.
When you said, "I was wondering if these programs existed or the ones you wanted to do because I've had a fantastic experience with, for example, a lavender graduation." So it gets you to, you can say something else about what you've done, and just watching you, you're just very animated and illuminated when you talk about those programs that you enjoyed with students, and that on a Skype interview comes across beautifully because Skype interviews can be very flat, and that really illuminates you. So that's a great opportunity for you to sort of shine through and differentiate yourself. So that's great. Any other questions you would ask them?
Yes. Do you have any data about how, have you conducted a campus climate survey just to see what challenges your LGBT students are currently facing?
Oh, great question. Very good. Any other?